Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight for Clean Energy Matters, a discussion about Hawaii's clean energy future. Hawaii has ambitious goals to reduce our dependence on oil and move to 100% renewable sources by the year 2045. And you can help reach that goal with small and big changes right in your own home. Joining us tonight with tips, Leanne Mayberry, Communications Director for Blue Planet Foundation, Brian Kealoha, Executive Director of Hawaii Energy, and Ian Morikawa, Manager of Distributed Energy Resources Programs for Hawaiian Electric. Thank you all so much for being here. Well, let's start by discussing the biggest energy users in our homes and what we can do to reduce those costs. Perhaps you can all share one major tip that you think will be helpful. I'll start with ladies first. Leanne?
Thanks, Gina. My one big tip is actually leading to many smaller tips. So depending on if you're a homeowner, a renter, or living in an apartment, things can vary a little bit. So we actually partnered with Hawaii Energy on a really fun interactive site called Efficiency Unlocked, where you can walk through a virtual home and learn simple room-by-room energy hacks that can save you both energy and money. And so to access that resource, viewers can visit efficiencyunlocked.org. So many great tips on there, and I'm sure the guys have many others to share as well.
Excellent. Brian, how about you? Some ideas?
Sure. Well, one of the biggest energy users for those of us who have air conditioning is our cooling systems. And maybe we're not using it as much now in the cooler winter months, but when summer comes around, we often have that AC going full blast and going all the time. And so one of the things you can do is make sure that air conditioner is energy efficient by looking for the Energy Star logo. And that's pretty much the case for any appliance that you have. Look to purchase Energy Star equipment. By doing that, you're going to have the most efficient equipment on the market. Hawaii Energy pays rebates for that. And what's really exciting as well is that we even have some maintenance and tune-up programs for your air conditioner. Make sure it's running well and efficient, even if you have one that's been installed for a number of years.
And how about you, Ian? What are some tips you can think?
Yeah, thanks, Gina. Some of the things that we notice from customers are really water heaters or electric washers and dryers, right? Some tips, either programming to use during the middle of the day, if rooftop PV system, or take advantage of our battery bonus program where we provide cash incentives for customers to add storage. And then you can use those biggest energy users at any time. Another option that we make available to customers today is to enroll in Hawaiian Electric's time of use program, where one pays a severely discounted price for energy used from 9 to 5, found at hawaiianelectric.com, time of use.
Great. And Ian, let me follow up with you. You know, people are going to wonder, well, am I saving cents or dollars or lots of dollars when I do those kinds of things? Are we talking, you know, tens of dollars? Could above $100 to save on your bill? How much a difference can it make?
Right. It really depends on each customer and their energy usage and their energy goals, really, and how much they can shift that energy to the middle of the day for the time of use program or the amount of PV generation and storage that they put on their house. It really dictates their savings.
Sure. Now, what about things like windows and doors? How are less efficient products that aren't electric themselves, but they can make a difference in our efficiency, impact our electric bills? And we'll start with Leanne.
There's certainly basic steps that we can all take. I think we all know not to have the windows open while the AC is running. Another helpful tip is to close the blinds on those really hot and sunny days to keep out some of that extra heat. And then as for less efficient products, I'm sure, Brian, would you like to elaborate on those?
Sure, happy to. And I think you started at a really key point. There's a lot of things that we can do, just how we operate in our homes to be able to save money, just by reducing the amount of energy that we use when it's not needed. When you think about, we never leave a room with the faucet on running, but yet we'll walk out of the room with the lights on or the TV going. And so there's a lot of easy steps, such as smart power strips, which are able to shut everything off on that power strip if you're not using it. And so cable boxes, game consoles, all of that can be shut off, and it's really no disturbance or really harming your way of life.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Think of it like your water's on when your lights are on. Well, bigger projects like solar and electric cars are also big energy savers. How much can someone save if they invest in a project like that? Ian.
Yeah, private rooftop PV systems, depending on the size, the location, whether they include energy storage, and ultimately the customer's energy usage will dictate that bill. Every customer that purchases and owns their private rooftop PV system will see a decrease in their electric bill if their usage remains more or less the same before they install PV. It is not unusual to see customers who pay the minimum bill, which is around $25.
We're seeing it right now. Fuel prices are escalating quite rapidly. And so if you have PV and you're able to charge your vehicle with what's produced from your PV system, you're going to reduce how much you spend on filling up your gas tank. It can be up to 100%, just depending on how much free energy you might be able to produce out of your home. So electric vehicles have already been gaining in popularity. And with this recent fuel spike, we're seeing a lot more interest in that.
Yeah. Well, time now for a short break, and we'll be right back to talk about some of the financial incentives out there to help you make these changes.
We in Hawaii respect
Well, welcome back. Let's talk about tax incentives and rebates that are out there for all of these eco-friendly changes. If you install solar, for example, in addition to the energy bill savings, what rebates are out there? Brian.
Sure, I can share a little bit with energy efficient products. We're really excited because usually if it's an energy efficient piece of equipment and it's Energy Star rated, we have a rebate for that. So I encourage folks to go to our website, www.hawaiienergy.com, and you'll see we have a number of incentives ranging from solar water heating to air conditioning systems, LED lighting, appliances. Again, you name it. If it uses energy, we probably have a rebate for that.
Sure. And Leanne, tell us about some of the other incentives that are still out there, whether it's taxes for big things like a car or those PV panels. Leanne?
Sure. For different tax incentives in terms of solar, really encourage people to check with local providers such as Revolution or PhotonWorks. But in addition to those, there's also some really great programs that are available, such as the GEMS program, which is seeking to help expand access to renewable energy for low to moderate income families. So GEMS was also instrumental in the creation of Kahuiki Village, which is the affordable long-term housing community for Hawaii's homeless families. And that community actually runs off of its own microgrid, and it's done through solar and battery. And it's programs like that GEMS are making these projects possible. So those are really great. And then when it comes to electric vehicles, it's actually only a federal tax credit that's currently available. But at the state level, there's actually two bills that are currently in the legislature right now. We have House Bill 2090 and Senate Bill 3158. And both of those bills are really focused on making those rebates available for residents with low to moderate income. And with the increase of electric vehicles on the road, charging is another significant part of that transition. And Brian with Hawaii Energy could maybe talk a little more about the wonderful rebate program that they have for EV chargers.
Right. The state has a great program that we're administering for EV charging stations. And basically for new level 2 charging stations, we pay a $4,500 rebate for that for businesses. And if it's a fast charger, we'll pay $35,000. And we also have slightly reduced incentives if you're retrofitting an old station that isn't working any further or it's not networked. So we have rebates both for existing and for new installations.
Those are some big dollars. Now, there are also rebates and incentives. You talked about the appliances and some other products, but what about solar batteries? So you've already done the PV on your house, but you haven't yet done the batteries. Are there some incentives to go ahead and take that next step to battery? Ian.
Yes, currently we offer the new battery bonus program, which for the first time ever provides Oahu customers with the cash incentive to add energy storage to an existing or new rooftop PV system in order to move Hawaii toward our goal of 100% clean energy by 2045 and add more renewable resources to the grid. We're really excited because as of now, Hawaiian Electric will pay up to $850 per kW of committed capacity to the program, which requires that the customer discharge their battery for about 2 hours during the window of 6 to 8 p.m. And that's found at hawaiianelectric.com/battery bonus.
Okay, that's another big dollar item. Well, we'll be right back after this break to talk more about the solar options available to all homes and to condo owners.
.com to learn more.
Well, welcome back. Some of these things are easier for folks who are in homes to accomplish, not always so in community living situations like condominiums. But what is in the works to help share the cost savings of things like solar? Ian.
Yeah, Hawaiian Electric offers our customers who do not live in single-family homes the ability to participate in a program called Shared Solar, which allows customers who cannot put solar panels on their roof, including renters, apartment residents, and small commercial customers, to participate in the renewable energy movement and save money. Again, that's at hawaiianelectric.com, Shared Solar, and that's more information on that program.
Sure. And Brian, can you expand on that thought a little bit too, whether it's the shared solar or other things that condominiums, communal living, groups of businesses could even perhaps get together to do?
Right. I think that's the beauty of energy efficiency. You don't have to own your home to participate. So as you look at what you have plugged into your various outlets in all the different rooms, again, there's a lot of opportunities to save money. Water heating is obviously one of them. And if you are part of an association, look into solar water heating. We have significant rebates available for that. But we also have rebates for heat pump water heaters as well. So there's a number of options because water heating after air conditioning is one of your biggest loads.
Sure. And Leanne, maybe some of your thoughts as well, whether it's condo living or how to make the parking garage at your apartment building have more solar parking, perhaps even how to influence your board to make those right choices. Your thoughts, Leanne, on getting the communal living community together?
Absolutely. And this topic's really important to me because I actually live in a condo building and I can really relate to that feeling of wanting to do more, but maybe not feeling like we have as much control. I love the community solar projects that Ian was mentioning. We actually have an amazing story from Molokai on the next episode of Empowered that's airing next week. So definitely tune in for that. But yeah, as you were saying, Gina, being able to really be a part of the board, talk to people in your own building. We've seen different areas where you can do a survey within your building, see how many people are interested in electric vehicles. Would they get an electric vehicle if there was EV charging available? And really being able to take that data to the board, we've seen that be a really effective strategy. And it's one that I'm implementing in my own building as well. So hopefully we can get more EV chargers in those condo and apartment buildings.
That's great. And to clarify, to go back to something that Brian was talking about before. So Brian, if a condo board got together, would that board association be able to take advantage of the fairly lucrative credits you were talking about for installing the quick or the slower chargers?
Yes, absolutely. If it's going to be something that's shared with the greater condo association, those rebates would be available to them.
Okay, we have a lot of board meetings. They'll start thinking about that this week, I bet. Now, businesses are some of the biggest energy users in the state. What should they be doing to reduce their costs? Brian.
Sure. I think a lot of businesses are continuing to struggle as we recover from the economic impacts of the pandemic. But we know that operating costs have stayed the same or escalated, especially as we look at the need to increase ventilation, right, with the virus. And so there's a number of things that businesses can do. And what we find is that the return on investment is better than any other type of investment they could be looking at. I mean, we're looking at returns of 20 to 50%, just depending on the project that they're looking at. So we really encourage businesses to take a look at how they're using their energy. There's a number of firms out there that can do audits and help them understand where the opportunities are and help to put the financial picture together for them. And Hawaii Energy offers a number of rebates and technical assistance to help businesses out with that as well.
Great. And Leanne, your thoughts particular to the business sector for cutting back on costs?
Yeah, the building sector is one of the largest consumers of energy on the island. I believe it makes up about 35% of the total greenhouse gas emissions. And as Brian was saying, energy is also one of the highest ongoing costs to owners and renters. So in 2022, this year, the city and county of Honolulu is actually proposing an energy and water benchmarking ordinance. And what this would do would be require buildings to actually track and report their energy and water use. And as the saying goes, you can't manage what you can't measure. So by implementing these benchmarking standards, it's expected to lower energy use, reduce operating expenses for both the building owners and the tenants. And of course, decreasing our greenhouse gas emissions.
Now, fuel costs are also climbing high, especially this week. How is that impacting our overall energy costs right now? And do you have any money-saving tips that can be effective immediately? Ian.
Yeah, we really haven't seen the price of crude oil this high since 2008 because of what's happening in Europe right now. And as oil prices keep rising, so will the electricity rates here. Again, there is no better time to consider a private rooftop PV system or participate in the battery bonus program. In addition, we also provide customers with information on our website where you can learn how to lower your electric bill with free tools and resources from Hawaiian Electric through energy efficiency and tips. So please welcome and visit us at hawaiianelectric.com. Products and services, save energy and money.
Well, thank you. We have one more short break and we'll be right back.
the way with green, renewable energy.
All right, if you've been watching it, you've probably got your calculators out and your wallet in the other hand thinking, wow, there seems like there's a lot of money out there that I can save or not have to write as big of a check. I'd like to ask each of you, think of some anecdotes that you've heard of from people who have gone down this path to energy savings and how it's paid off for them in their pocketbook. We'll start with Brian.
Sure. I think one of the exciting things about leading with energy efficiency is you can save a significant amount of money on your energy bill by just being more efficient. And two different ways. One, by installing energy efficient equipment, as we discussed. And second, by just reducing the waste that's in your home. And so what we've seen is people have saved 50 to 60% on their electricity bill just by doing energy efficiency alone. So it doesn't require a significant investment as you would need to in renewable energy. But that being said, there's another benefit as well, is because as we try to reduce our bills further with PV and other solar options, if you can bring down how much you're using in your home, then you can buy a smaller PV system. You can buy a smaller battery system. So that savings starts to multiply as well. And as Ian had noted earlier, I mean, some people are seeing just a minimum charge on their bill now by doing all of these steps together.
Sure. And Ian, we'll go right to you on that. You mentioned the minimum bill before. Talk a little bit more about that. You know, homes in Hawaii can range in all sorts of sizes, but what's the, sort of an average power bill just on old-fashioned power versus a home that's really trying to do it right with efficiency?
Again, if you're leveraging that PV system and its size appropriately, with this new battery bonus program, you're allowed to add additional PV panels and generation, really making that dent in your electricity bill a reality. Even if you've already had a PV system and you still have a $100 bill, you can take advantage of this program today. And for example, if you purchase a standard 5 kW battery, the rebates that you could save, it could be up to $4,250 if you enroll that 5 kW battery into this program. And furthermore, just recently, the commission allowed us to pay equivalent to retail now for any exports during that 6 to 8 hour window that really allows customers to put into the grid and get a return that's equivalent to, basically retail rate, which has never been seen before, which is outstanding.
That's right, because in the past we had always heard about, the grandfathered rates or the net energy metering going away. But is this kind of a return to being able to get dollar for dollar, dime for dime in the energy your home is producing? Is that right, Ian?
That's pretty accurate. It allows customers who participate during this 6 to 8 hour PM period really to get that equivalent rate that they would if they were kind of a NEM customer back in the legacy time, which is outstanding because it not only helps the homeowner, but it really helps all customers because that's when we need that energy during that peak when everybody comes home, starts cooking, taking showers, etc. So it's really helping out Hawaii.
Well, besides the home, of course, we spend a lot of time in our cars, and that's another big source of the investment. Leanne, can you put on your accounting hat and talk about some of the numbers people might see? If they go out and spend $40,000 on an electric car, how can that actually end up paying back in the end?
I think a lot of people think about that initial investment, but so much of us, we don't really think about the actual cost of transportation during our day-to-day. So obviously these gas prices are extremely high right now. And then also maintenance on our vehicles. When it comes to electric vehicles, you're spending a lot less being able to charge your vehicle. And then of course, maintenance is next to nothing. So there's some really big advantages there. And then also, if you're not ready to make a purchase for an electric vehicle, you can also start by just choosing alternative modes of transportation, whether it's riding a bicycle to work, even just once a week. Just replacing simple car trips with an alternative mode of transportation can really add up in the end.
All right. Well, we're almost out of time. And before we go, we'll give everybody a final message to residents about what they can do to be more environmentally conscious and, again, why that is so important. Leanne.
Yeah, sometimes climate change just feels like such a big issue that sometimes people get overwhelmed and think, what can I really do to change it? And I think we've seen tonight, there's so many things that we all can do in our own lives. from simple energy efficiency changes, installing solar panels on our home, or even submitting testimony for a clean energy bill. And I think that's really the key. We need more voices at the table. And we encourage viewers to join our list of clean energy advocates at blueplanetfoundation.org. And I think we can really see some of these policy shifts throughout this legislative session.
Excellent.
So with that support, we can really expand the policies and programs that we talked about tonight.
Hawaii Electric, leads the nation in rooftop solar. 1 in 5 customers across the 5 islands that Hawaii Electric serves already installed rooftop solar. Hawaii Electric has more options today available to its customers than ever before, from offering cash incentives to install storage with battery bonus to making the interconnection process for new PV customers just really quicker than it's ever been. Really, there's never been a better time to join the renewable energy movement. So please join us, learn how you can play a role in Hawaii's clean energy renewable future at hawaiielectric.com.
As Leah mentioned, it can be overwhelming when we talk about climate change and what we need to do to really have an impact. And these little actions really do add up and make a difference. And I think what's exciting on the energy side, whether it be energy efficiency, renewable energy, or clean transportation, is these investments actually pay out a very positive return on investment. It brings savings to us either as homeowners, as renters, or as business owners. It's one of the few areas in climate change that we can actually see a return on our investment. So one, it makes a lot of sense for us to be doing that. And then secondly, living in Hawaii, we are a community. And the best way to just help out is to tell your friends, tell your family, tell them about what you did, how you saved some money, how it was really real to you, because that's the kind of stuff that starts to inspire movement and change. And we will all benefit from having a clean energy future.
Thank you. Well, thank you all so much to all of our panelists for participating tonight and sharing all those great energy-saving tips and the money-saving tips. We hope you've all learned some ideas about how you at home can help the environment and save yourself some money along the way. Aloha and good night.